That's
Mm.
not, in the Bible. Yes, we are supposed to steward the things that we have well. However, being thankful for the reason that these things are in my kitchen and the people that have made all the cups
Yeah.
dirty. And
Welcome to The Home and the Maker, sharing advice and encouragement about all topics homemaking and homesteading, and honoring the maker in all of it. Join Megan from Shine.fm for today's conversation. So, winter in the Midwest is time for all things cozy and warm and homemade goodness. And as it crests into fall, I'm thinking about soups. And when I was talking to my aunt last August about this podcast and all the dreams for it, somehow we got on the conversation of soup. And she also said she loves to make soup. So I thought I have to do this a whole episode just on soup. And thankfully, my Aunt Angie decided to join me. So, thank you so much for being on today.
you're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
So I know for me, this started like my passion for soups started back in grad school. I was doing Friday night soup nights and making a new like soup every weekend when I had the time and the energy. But why do you enjoy making soups for your family so much?
I think there's a lot of reasons I love soups because when you asked me to be on this podcast, I had to sit down and actually think why soup is my preferred thing to make in the kitchen. So what I came up with was I feel like so I'm an art major, or I was an art major in college. I am very creative. I like to use my creativity. However, I have four kiddos and we homeschool and we have piano lessons and all the things. And so I think what I've found is that in the kitchen, my creativity is best shown by doing soup.
Hmm.
Like, I'm not going to creatively make a steak. I'm not going to creatively make chicken nuggets. It's
Yeah.
like, but when it comes to soup, it's almost like an art project.
Mm-hmm.
Start with your base, which is your broth, and then you add your colors and you add your flavors. And then at the end, you come up with a whole masterpiece that is just fun. So I think it's different than some other foods. Now, people might say it's the same if you bake a cake but I guess like with cakes and cookies and stuff like that, I'm a lot more like following the rules
Oh yeah.
because, you know, you do anything wrong and it's not going to turn out well. But with soups, you have a little bit more leeway.
Mm-hmm.
If you add a little bit too much of this, you can add more of that. You can add more water. If it gets too salty, you can fix your mistakes a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say when I started making soup, it was probably not until I was married and had a couple kids. And I think what really launched it was my mother-in-law was over for Thanksgiving, and we had made a big turkey and ate it on Thanksgiving. And then the
Mm-hmm.
day after, she started making soup. So she got out my big stock pot, which I don't know if I've ever used before that time. And she started pulling all the meat off the bones and like just sticking the whole neck in and, all the stuff into the pot. And then she just started adding stuff that we had from the fridge, vegetables and things like that. And, she'd just open my cabinets and pull out spices and put them in. And I was just like, wow, you can like make soup out of anything.
Yeah,
And it tasted delicious.
that's
Like, I
awesome.
guess that was the first moment I really remember being like, huh, soup's really not a scary thing. Like, you just need your broth and you need probably a protein. I mean, unless you're making vegetarian,
Mm-hmm.
and you need some veggies, and basically, you can make a good soup.
Yeah.
So that was probably the first time I really thought about it. And then your grandma, my mom, her staple is chicken rice soup. And so she brings that over or brought that over a lot, and my kids loved it. So I decided, to figure out how to make it myself. But as you probably also know, grandma does not use a recipe.
She doesn't.
So asking her, like, well, how do you do this? And she's like, I don't know. These are the things I use, and you're just going to have to figure it out.
That sounds like my
Which
mom. She's like,
Right? Right?
uh.
Exactly. And so the nice thing about soup is it's not so scary because, you just start out with a little bit,
Hmm.
like a little bit of salt, a little bit of thyme, and then you taste it and you're like, okay, a little bit more salt,
Yeah.
no more time. So you can slowly, whereas with a lot of other things you cook or bake, you can't really do that. You have to like wait till the end to taste and see if you got it right or not. So
Hmm.
I love that about soup is it's kind of a process and you can tweak it as you go.
Yeah.
So grandma's chicken rice soup was a really a springboard from all the rest of the soups that I've learned to love and make.
That's awesome. Do you find it a challenge to prep food for and feed a family of six, including two teenage boys?
So the biggest problem is one stock pot. So if I make, and I have a pretty good sized stock pot. So for one meal, if I'm planning, because usually when I do soup, it's the meal. I don't like, we don't do a whole meal and soup is your side like you would get at a restaurant. Soup is the meal.
Yeah.
So one stock pot is like just enough for our family,
Okay.
like with hardly any leftovers, which is super sad because,
Yes. So much
leftovers are
work.
the best. So, so if I really want leftovers, I would have to make two stock pots of soup, which is a lot of work. So
Hmm.
usually I just make the one pot. Um, it's really not that much work. So for like one stock pot, I would have to chop up like maybe 10 carrots, one big onion, obviously depending on the recipe. Um, so one stock pot can feed my family.
Hmm.
But I do like to freeze soup when I can because it's a great lunch thing for my kids who are home. Um, However, that's been a challenge because we eat it all and we eat it fast. And it's hard to freeze like an entire stock pot of soup because the kids eat so much of it. And then I end up with like one little serving left over. And I'm like, oh, that's not worth it's not
Somebody
worth it.
eat it.
Exactly. So I would say it's probably not any harder to make soup for a family of six than it would be for a
Mhm.
family of four. The problem comes when you want leftovers
Yeah.
because it's just not there. But yeah, I think it's fantastic because most soups do freeze well.
Hmm.
So if you do have the forethought of getting enough ingredients for like two full stock pots, it's a great idea to make one for dinner and then, keep the other one to freeze.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do have my kids chop things.
There you go.
My youngest, Hannah, who you know, is my sous chef. She
Nice.
loves all things cooking and baking and wants to put
Oh.
all the things in and stir all the things. And she's there from the beginning to the end. I'm
Oh.
impressed by her commitment to the she doesn't lose interest. So I think she might be the one who takes over with the cooking.
There you go. That's the hardest part for me is the desire to prep everything because that's what takes the longest. So, um, it's great you have a second set of hands. And do you ever like prep anything in advance? So, I've got X amount of carrots. I know I might use these in soup. I'm going to chop them up ahead of time.
Not really, but so I don't know if you have one of these, but back in the day, Pampered Chef made this awesome chopper.
I know mom has one.
Yeah.
The one that you punch
Yeah, I
down.
don't even know if they still make those or not. Maybe they do. You didn't get one for your wedding? I don't
No,
know.
I'll have to ask for one.
You will because it's a huge time saver. So it's like that little round thing. You know what I'm talking about.
It's like a upside down cup almost
And
shape.
then you push down on
Yes.
the top. It feels like a children's game or something.
Yes.
But that is a huge time saver. And it cuts things small enough. Like if I don't, so in like chicken soups, I don't want my carrots pulverized.
Hmm.
So I probably won't use that. because that's good for cutting like onions into smaller, my
Yeah.
kids don't like onion chunks.
Mm.
They don't mind onion, but
Yeah.
they don't want to like eat a 1 inch piece of
Yeah.
onion. So I use that to cut things up really small. But if I'm going to do carrots, then for like chicken soup, then I will just use a knife because I just want nice slices. I
Yeah.
don't want them so tiny.
Right.
But for like onions, because I hate chopping onions, I'm one of those people that cries and
Yeah.
like for an hour, it's not even done right
Oh
away.
no.
Just like the mere scent of onion. I love onion, but
Yeah.
yeah, it really affects my tear ducts. So I hate chopping onions. So that little thing is so fabulous because it like encloses the onion. When I chop it, none of the fumes are like coming up
Right.
in my face.
That's so funny.
So yeah, onions bad. So like green peppers, or even like jalapenos or such from the garden, you can chop like right when you pick them and just stick them in a freezer safe bag,
Hmm.
put them in the freezer. So those are easy to add later if you wish.
Yeah.
So you just kind of have to do the prep like right away. Like maybe
Hmm.
we have a little bit of
Yeah.
energy, just quick chop them up. I will also say that for prep, it's not the healthiest thing, but if I am running short on time, I will use canned chicken
Mm.
from the store because it's like right in the tuna section.
Okay.
You get
Yeah.
cans of tuna. So they also have cans of chicken, and it's breast meat, and it's good,
Hmm.
and it's a little saltier than than you would have. So you got to be aware of that. Like you add less salt to your
Hmm.
recipe because your chicken has more salt in it.
Right.
But, if I'm doing a quick meal, like oftentimes we'll have soup Sunday after church.
Oh.
I'll just quick go home and I can make the chicken rice soup fairly quickly.
Hmm.
And I'll just throw in 2 or 3 cans of the already cooked chicken.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not the healthiest. It'd be better if I cooked it in the oven and chopped it myself. But hey, we're all about using,
Efficiency.
yes, using the tools that we have. Every once in a while, we can do that, right?
Yes,
So that
for
has
sure.
been a big time saver for me because I don't know about you, but I don't often have cooked chicken laying around.
No.
Like it's just not something I keep in the fridge.
Right.
So that's something I've learned to make it easier. And I've also, another tool that I love for soup making is my immersion blender,
Oh, I need one of those.
which I just discovered like in the winter last year.
Okay.
I was always, because my recipes would say, because some of the recipes need a little bit more of a creamier feel
Hmm.
instead of frothy. So they say to use your immersion blender. And I was like, They're like, if you don't have an immersion blender, you can pour half of the soup, half of the hot boiling soup into your big blender,
Mm.
puree it, and then pour it back in. And
That sounds
as
like a disaster.
you can imagine, I mean, not only is it a disaster, but you lose like part of your soup in the
Hmm.
process because a lot of it actually stays in the blender and it's hot. So
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, like you said, a mess. So the immersion blender, I think I paid like $30 for it. I can't remember, but it has changed my soup world. So highly recommend. Put it on your Christmas list.
Yes. For next year.
Exactly, because it has been so fun. It
Yeah.
it it really is game changing when it comes to soups because I like to do butternut squash soup,
Okay.
which butternut squash soup you generally don't want chunkies.
Hmm.
That just isn't the texture you're going for. So the immersion blender is fabulous. However, don't use it for potato soup if you want chunkies.
Right.
Like my family likes their potato soup to have potato chunks in it.
Yeah.
I know some potato soups are like totally all smooth and creamy, but that's not our thing. So I tried the immersion blender and it's like way too powerful.
Oh,
Like it just sucks everything right in
wow.
and smooth as silk. So You have to
Like
learn how to,
imagining Hannah with the immersion blender.
right? Oh my word. I won't
That's
let
so funny.
anyone touch that because it's kind of a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Like a blender on the end of a stick. And when you put it in the stock pot, it'll actually suction to the bottom almost.
Oh,
So powerful.
wow.
So
That does sound fun though.
I don't think my kids will be able to use it until they have a driver's license.
That's crazy. That's so funny. Like they're not that far off.
They're not that far off. One of them's not. He's already
That's
looking
so
for a
sad.
car.
Oh
So
my goodness. No. Wow. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but how much of this stuff from your garden might make it into your soups?
yeah, so I have a raised bed garden because we live on a sand hill. And we learned that things do not like to grow on sand hills. So Andy, my husband, you know him, he built me a raised bed garden and he didn't have high hopes for it. He thought he was just kind of patronizing me a little bit, like, sure, honey,
Yeah.
sure, this will be great. But I have a really cute raised bed garden. We did a great job. And the first time, this is our second year. So the first year, he was just shocked by the amount of stuff we got out of it.
Hmm.
So what I grow in there is a lot of tomatoes, and we use those for the soups.
Hmm.
So many tomatoes that I didn't quite know what to do with them
Wow.
because there's only so much you can do with tomatoes.
Like the big
But I
ones?
found the big ones
Okay.
and the little ones.
Okay.
So the big ones, I would just wash them. I would cut the core out and throw it in the freezer, like,
Oh,
gallon-sized bags. I'd
okay.
put big tomatoes in gallon-sized bags and just put them in the freezer, which is great for soups because you take them out of the freezer and then you let them thaw and the skins just kind of pull off, which is
Hmm.
cool because you would have to, I mean, most of the times you would peel them anyway.
Yeah,
And then you can use them in any recipe that calls for tomatoes or
that's
like,
awesome.
so probably not diced tomatoes because they're not going to retain the texture. It's
Hmm.
kind of a mushy, lumpy mess.
Okay.
But any soup you use that asks for cans of tomatoes, you can substitute that.
Hmm.
So that's been a great way to use our big tomatoes. I still have to learn how to say no to tomato plants because I have so many of them and I feel so guilty when I don't use them all. So I'm still working on that. But I also have pepper plants
Hmm.
in the garden. So green peppers, banana peppers,
Ooh.
jalapenos.
Okay.
And I use those in soups.
Cool.
Um, I have not used my green beans in soups because I don't do vegetable soup yet.
Okay.
Grandma does an excellent vegetable soup. We actually call it better than medicine soup. I called it that because I didn't want my kids to know it was called vegetable soup because they might not like it. So we started better than medicine soup.
That's hilarious.
And then that's what we've always called it. But they actually love her vegetable soup. So again, it's one of those things I want to learn,
Hmm.
but I'm sure she doesn't have a recipe. So I'm going to have to actually be there when she makes
Like
it. But
watch over her shoulder.
exactly. We also grow carrots, which I use those all the time. I mean, carrots can almost go in any soup,
Hmm.
literally any soup. You can throw carrots in and they won't ruin it.
That's awesome.
Um, and we've done
Okay.
leeks for the first time this year, and it was fabulous. Like,
Hmm.
they're wonderful. They're pretty low maintenance, and
Okay.
you can add them to so many things. And they
Huh.
just, like, David started doing eggs with leeks in them.
Oh.
It adds this wonderful, like, kind of onion, but kind of not flavor.
Hmm.
And then we did potatoes for the first time this year. So I use
Wow.
those also in the soup.
Cool.
I'll
That's
do
so
more
cool.
potatoes next year because they were so much fun.
Yay. That makes me glad to hear that. It's like what for when
Yes.
basically for the garden of the future
Yes.
that
Yes.
carrots and onions can be successful or
Yes.
potatoes. Yes.
Yes. Oh, onions too. I do hope to
Okay.
do onions next year. So
Ooh.
stay tuned.
Okay. Perfect. So, last question. How has God met you in the kitchen or during just, yeah, as you feed your family and prepare food for them?
Well, so in my kitchen time, you've been to my house and
Hmm.
you know the kitchen is like the center of the house
Yep.
and it's always crazy and it's always messy because people are in and out and there's always dishes because there's always people eating. I mean, we homeschool, so
Hmm.
we're always here for all the meals.
Yeah.
So I used to struggle and sometimes still do about the messiness of my kitchen. So I definitely use that now as a time when I'm cooking any meal. Um, but I guess like I don't know, I do feel like I'm in a good place when I'm cooking soup. I know it sounds kind of silly, but because of the process, we talked about the chopping and the this and that, and it's not really a rushing thing. You've got your broth going and you're just adding things as they go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good time to focus on the Lord and
Yeah.
on the blessings that have caused the messy kitchen.
Yeah.
It's a season for us, obviously. Eventually we will be empty nesters. Um,
No.
and we're already through the season where the kitchen was full of sippy cups and, you know,
Hmm.
high chairs and little plates. And so it's interesting to look, as you're cooking, to just think about those kind of things, like where you've been. And I don't, the kitchen is such a place, such a telling place for that kind of thing. Like I said, when you're when you have babies or toddlers, your kitchen is full of this kind of thing.
Hmm.
When you have teenagers, your kitchen is full of this kind of thing. Your kitchen looks
Lots and
different,
lots of cups.
right? Oh my word, right? So many cups and snack, like wrappers everywhere. Um, and like work boots sitting on the kitchen table. That's just, that's
Hmm.
high school teenage life. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to be really intentional about thinking about those kind of things instead of thinking about my kitchen is so dirty, it's such a mess. Why can't I ever have a nice things? Why are there boots on my table? And instead thinking like God has given me this moment and these people to enjoy. He has not called me to have a clean kitchen. That's
Mm.
not, in the Bible. Yes, we are supposed to steward the things that we have well. However, being thankful for the reason that these things are in my kitchen and the people that have made all the cups
Yeah.
dirty. And but they
Hmm.
also are the people that are emptying the dishwasher and sweeping the floor. So the kitchen is such a place of learning and of blessing. And as I say these words, I'm reminding myself that I just need to think about that more often.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel the same way about the garden. For me, the garden and the kitchen go kind of hand in hand because we do use a lot of the stuff in our daily prep. Obviously, not now. It's cold and gross outside, but the kids help in the garden and
Hmm.
we're thankful for the blessings of our food, like how much sustenance we get from that and how good God is with those kind of things.
Yeah. That's good. I love that wisdom and thank you for sharing.
I'm so glad I could. We
I
should make
feel
soup together
I
sometime,
know. Well, we can I also thought when you talked about watching over grandma's shoulder, I was like, sign me up. When you're there, I'll be there.
right? So, one last question for you. What's your favorite soup to make?
Oh, mom's potato chowder.
Oh, I've never made that one.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yep,
this,
it
do
is.
you
It's my
have a
favorite.
recipe
I
or?
do. Yes. So I don't know where mom got it, if she got it from, yeah. I don't remember who mom got it from, but she would make it and she'd do like homemade bread in the bread maker. Oh, so that pairing was just the best.
Yep, absolutely. I'll have to try it sometime.
Yes. Well, thanks so much for your time and just for your wisdom. And this was such a blessing to me.
That was absolutely my pleasure. We don't get to talk nearly enough.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Home and the Maker podcast. And for other podcasts from Shine.fm, visit the Shine.fm podcast channel.